Hi, I'm Eric Praud. I'm here to talk to you about Salesforce formulas, tips, and tricks. I'm so excited to do it here on Check Automate. Thank you so much, Mahan, for having me around. I have been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for the past 13 years. I am also a Salesforce Answers leader, and I've had the privilege of being a Salesforce MVP for the past 2 years. As you can see today, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks about Salesforce formulas. So I was asked to present something about formulas. It is a very broad topic. So I decided to go with a few tips and tricks, and I hope they will help you. One thing I want to make clear today is not about giving you long examples of complicated formulas. Formulas can be in many places in Salesforce, like formula fields, flows, validation rules, reports, etc. Most of the principles I will speak about today apply to all of the above. I'll try to flag it if it doesn't apply to a specific feature. First, let's talk about the greatest formula ever, the power of one. It was made popular by Tim Robbins. It is a very simple number formula field that only consists of typing the number 1 in the formula box. That's it. I recommend having 1 on every object. This formula will help you with reports, mostly cross-object reports, when the record count is not on the object you need. For example, the number of opportunities that use a specific product when running an opportunity with products report. You can also see how it can be handy in the report in the screenshot, where I can now see how many accounts and opportunities are owned by whom. We can see that the report was already giving me a record count on opportunities only. Thanks to the power of 1, I can also have the record count on accounts. You can now use the unique function in summary formulas, or show the unique count. That kind of works the same way, but it is not always available. This same principle applies if you want to count the number of records with specifics. For example, here's a formula that would give you the record count of accounts where the type pick list is set to new customer. Find a pattern. Every formula has a pattern behind it. Some are easier to find than others. Try to rephrase the requirement using the word every. For example, for daylight savings in Europe, clocks go back every last Sunday in October, and they go forward every last Sunday in March. By doing so, you'll find the pattern and therefore the logic behind the formula. To me, that's 1/3 of the formula writing process. 1, you find the logic. 2, you think on how to apply the logic in a formula. And 3, you write and you test the formula. Salesforce gives you a few ways to help you writing formulas. Make sure you use them. So many times I see issues with formulas that could have easily been avoided by using one or several of those features. For example, when writing a report formula, always use the left-hand side panel to insert the fields, just like you need to use the insert field button when writing a formula field or a validation rule, or insert a resource when writing a flow formula. Don't forget to check the functions when writing a formula field or validation rule. You even have a link to its related help and training article. There is plenty of help online. Don't hesitate to make use of it. The most obvious ones are the Salesforce help and training. And by the way, I recommend you check the formula FAQ article and the Answers community. But there is plenty of material in non-official pages. Please remember that Google is your friend here. There are plenty of blogs, for example, Automation Champion, Salesforce Ban, Facebook groups, or plenty of YouTube channels, etc., etc. Now let's talk about date formulas. They can get very tricky, very fast. One of the main reasons for it is that dates and times are returned in GMT. Therefore, if you are not in this time zone, your results may be off by a day. You can offset the result by adding or subtracting the difference between your time zone and GMT. However, this does not take daylight savings into account, if applicable, and this only applies to one time zone. Also, have a look at the sample date formula Salesforce help and training article. There are some real gems there. For example, how to calculate which quarter a date falls in. Finally, I wanted to discuss the difference between add month and month plus a number. The month function returns a number, 1 for January, 2 for February, up to 12 for December. Therefore, if your formula returns a number greater than 12, for example, you have a date in December and you add 1 month, it will result in an error. Add month will not error out and is therefore preferred. As a bonus, I've added a date formula using the add month function to return the last day of the month of a date field. Reports formulas. So reports now have two kinds of formulas. Row level formula, they act like a formula field. You can only use one per report, and there are a few limitations as to when you can use them. For example, you cannot use them on a report on an object with or without another object. Also, some functions that are common in formula fields are not available, and it can only return a number, a date time, or text. All of this is documented in Salesforce help and training article called row level formula limitations. Also, a row level formula cannot be reused in another report. You will need to write it again for the newer report. If you know you will reuse a formula, it may be a better idea to create a formula field on the object so you can use this field in multiple reports. The second type of formulas in a report are summary formulas that can calculate a numerical value at a grouping level. These formulas can be a bit tricky to get used to, but they can be very powerful. They are often used to display a percentage of total at a grouping level, or for a comparison between groupings as in a year-on-year calculation when the report is grouped by year. There are two specific functions for summary formulas: parent group val and prev group val. If you look at the screenshot, you can see that parent group val takes the value of the current grouping. Here we use the record count, whereas prev group val takes the value of a previous grouping. It's the one before by default, but you can compare up to 12 groupings apart. I've added a couple of formulas as a tip to calculate the percentage of a grand total. The first one is for a summary report, while the second formula is to be used in a matrix report. Also, any numerical column can be summarized by returning the sum, minimum, maximum, average, or median value. It usually defaults to sum. You can change it by just clicking on the arrow pointing down on the column or double-clicking on the field on the left-hand side panel. And you can then select the necessary summary function. And finally, as per my first slide, do not forget about the power of one formula. Here's something that quite a few people are unaware of. The $ in a formula references the logged-in user. It can be very handy in a few scenarios, like excluding a specific role or profile or user in a validation rule, or having a checkbox formula used as a filter in a list view or a report. For example, if you want a list view of your subordinates records, you can create an is manager checkbox. Shorten formulas as much as you can, just to avoid the compiled error that we saw early on. Know your field data types. It's very important to know them. For example, if you're using a pick list, there are only two functions that you can use: text or spicval. Avoid multi-select pick list. Indeed, multi-select pick lists are horrible to work with, not only with formulas, by the way, for reports also. In formulas, you can only use two functions, is blank and includes, and the formulas tend to get very big very quickly. Keep a cheat sheet. If you create a formula and the logic is complicated, make sure you copy the formula somewhere so you can reuse it in the future. Checkboxes cannot be blank. I see this error all the time. A checkbox has only two states: true or false, never blank. Is changed only works on edit. If you have a record triggered flow or a validation rule and you use is changed, remember that this part of the formula will not be considered on creation of a record. And finally, do not mix and or with the symbols for and or. As per Salesforce, and I have seen it myself, if you mix the two sets in a formula, this can break the formula. Don't be afraid to fail. We all do. Failing is a great way to learn. We also were all beginners at some point. Thank you very much. I hope I did not bore you too much. Please check out my profile on Trailblazer. Here you can see the 18,000 answers that I've given, including over 4,000 best answers, mostly about formulas to help you solve your business problems. Hope one of them will help you.